Tyreek Hill has listed his top 5 receivers of all time. Antonio Brown, Torrey Holt, Calvin Johnson, Randy Moss. I assume that's Randy Moss. I'm not familiar with Randy Moss. And Terrell Owens. So one slight admission, permission to be completely wrong about what I was saying. Jerry Rice, what the hell? How do you not have? And this is an example of, I think, Tyreek Hill, knows of Antonio Brown. Like, Jerry Rice was long gone by the time Tyreek Hill's paying attention to the NFL. So, it's like me talking about Don Hudson. So I guess I get it. But when Jerry Rice has all the records and has had all the records and will continue to have all the records, it's kind of hard to overlook Jerry Rice.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty big oversight. And, usually when you see lists of guys and you're like, how could you leave that guy off? And it's like, well, if there's a name that you left off, then who do you replace? To me, that one's really easy. Antonio Brown by Randy Moss. Hello. That one's, I don't know about all that. I mean, and really, is he too young to know about Jerry Rice? Jerry Rice is still on stuff. He's on commercials and whatnot. I mean, when I was growing up, and I am a little bit older than Tyreek Hill, I mean, he was at the end of his career and he was with the Raiders. And I remember one time being like, when I was a kid, like, oh man, like Jerry Rice, he's this great Raiders receiver. My mom looked at me and he's like, no, he was a 49ers wide receiver. Like, and that's where he did his work. So, don't get that wrong when you start talking to people, because then I'll be embarrassed. So thank you, Mom, for educating me on football properly.
Jerry Rice was so ridiculously dominant. That 1987 season he had, strike shortened, his stats were off the charts, unstoppable. He would catch the ball in stride, and part of it was, and there was that great debate, is it Joe Montana, is it Jerry Rice? I mean, he would just run his route and the ball would appear. He never had to not even break stride. He didn't even have to bat an eye, and the ball hit him and he just went. He was gone, and he was phenomenal. And there was just a fluidity to his movement, the way he was put together, the way he did his thing in relation to the rest of the players. It just felt different. It looked different. All those old highlights are out there, and you can just see there was something different about Jerry Rice. He's clearly one of the top 5 all time. He was regarded as the GOAT at any position. It was like 20 years, 25 years, maybe longer. Tom Brady became the GOAT of GOATs. It was Jerry Rice. Like, the best player of all time at any position is Jerry Rice. Until Tom Brady got to 6 or 7, then it's like, okay, maybe it's Brady. But yeah, Rice stands alone by way of talent and by way of what he did with his talent. Moss could have been the GOAT, but he didn't get the most out of his God-given ability. Terrell Owens is right up there. But yeah, Antonio Brown out, Jerry Rice in. That was easy. And I would also take Torrey Holt out and put Marvin Harrison or Holt's teammate Isaac Bruce in instead of Torrey Holt. All due respect to Torrey Holt.
I mean, I really like Torrey Holt. I mean, I think he is one of the best receivers of his generation. There's an argument to be made that at some points he was better than Isaac Bruce, but yeah, Isaac Bruce is the one with the number retired for the Rams. So, I mean, yeah, those two dudes, though, were both absolutely dominant in the heyday of the greatest show on turf, for the then St. Louis Rams. So it's not like either of those dudes were slouches. Frankly, I love Torrey Holt. He's one of my favorite receivers that I ever got to watch when I was growing up.
And the Rams have some relevance to the other side of what we're talking about as it relates to Tyreek Hill, because he continues to be obsessed with getting to 2,000 yards. Even though they don't give out Lombardi trophies, they don't give out rings, they don't give out any team recognition for one guy having 2,000 yards. He said, the quarterback play that we have is amazing. As you can see, Tua has been delivering. I feel like all training camp and the way that our head coach and our OC designs plays for us is ridiculous. My job is really easy. I just got to stay healthy. I just got to keep my attention to detail and just know where to be on the field at all times for my quarterback. Then I'll be able to make those plays to get to where I want to be at, which is 2,000 yards. That's something he said on the NFL Network. Myles, this explains why he's no longer a Chief. Now, I know the money had something to do with it, but during the 2021 season, where he had a career high in targets, he wasn't happy that he wasn't getting the ball enough. He was low-key, behind the scenes, a pain in the ass for the Chiefs and disrupted what they were trying to do, I believe, because he was obsessed with Cooper Kupp. I think that's what happened. He saw the year that Cooper Kupp was having. He saw Cooper Kupp on track to have 2,000 yards, and he think, why that should be me? Why isn't that me? I want the ball as much as Cooper Kupp's getting the ball. I don't care that I'm getting the ball more than I ever have in my career. Every game, I want 10 targets. Every game, I want 8 catches. Every game, I want 150. I should be the one threatening Calvin Johnson's all-time yardage record, not Cooper Kupp. I think that what Cooper Kupp was doing that year caused something to misfire in Tyreek Hill's brain and get him focused on the wrong thing. And if you're focused on your own achievements in a team sport, you are necessarily focused, Myles, on the wrong thing.
I mean, yeah, that's true. But look, if Tyreek Hill's getting 2,000 yards, then that probably means that the Miami Dolphins are scoring a lot of points, which then also means that they're probably winning games, especially based on what we were just saying about what we think that defense could be. So I don't necessarily think that this is the best thing to focus on either. And I also don't know that it's the most realistic thing to focus on because, look, they still have Jalen Waddle, and Mike McDaniel has talked about wanting to run the ball more and run the ball more effectively. And if you do that, you're controlling games in a different way. So I don't know that Tyreek Hill is going to be able to get to 2,000 yards. I understand wanting to do that and being a competitor and wanting to be the best that ever was and all these different kinds of things. That's something that nobody's ever done before. To me, I kind of get it. But I also think if you're Mike McDaniel, if you're Tua Tagovailoa, you can't let what he says dictate what it is that you're going to do once you get between the white lines, right? You've got to do what's best for the team and what's going to help you win games. And so if defenses are starting to, flow toward Tyreek Hill, you got other weapons like a Jalen Waddle, who is very, 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 very good. Utilize him in the same sort of way. Jalen Waddle led the league in yards per reception last year at just over 18 yards per catch. That guy's not a slouch. They don't necessarily need Tyreek Hill to be a 2,000-yard guy to win.
Anytime you have a player on your offense, especially a receiver, that has this personal goal and has an express or implied expectation that the ball is going to come his way, that potentially affects the performance of your team. That was one of the issues with the Kansas City Chiefs. The offense was being too skewed toward Tyreek Hill. And part of it was, too, because Tyreek Hill was open deep a lot. Patrick Mahomes wanted to take those deep shots, and he was resisting running the offense and working it the way Andy Reid and Eric Bieniemy had designed it. And look what happened. You remove Tyreek Hill, and you win a Super Bowl. Now, look, there's a lot more that goes into it, but I think that Tyreek Hill and his desire for more targets, more catches, more yards, more fame, more notoriety. He tries to deny it now, but I really do think one of the reasons he also wanted out of Kansas City, that was Mahomes' team. He wants to go somewhere where he's the guy. And the Dolphins are all in with it in theory, but if they're going to be as good of a team as they can be, Myles, you're absolutely right. You can't have Tua with all the other stuff he's got to worry about this year, starting with avoiding the kind of contact that results in head injuries. You don't want him staring down Tua when he should be thinking, when do I get rid of this football? And if I got a guy on the other side of the field who's open, instead of waiting for Tyreek Hill because he's going to be upset because he's no longer on pace for 2,000 yards, and I hold the ball just long enough that I get thrown to the ground and I get another concussion, that's not good for the Dolphins. So this is where I think it's imperative for someone in that organization to find a way, and this may not be easy to do, to approach Tyreek Hill and explain to him how his open desire, his zeal, his passion to have 2,000 yards can be counterproductive to what that team is trying to do.
Yeah, and I think that makes sense. But you don't want to shut the passion off, though, right? You want to strike that balance. It is a threading of the needle, if you will, where you have a guy who wants to be as productive as possible, and that's motivating him, right? And that is good because you want motivated players. Volunteers, not hostages, as Mike Tomlin likes to say, but you also don't want it to be so out there, what the individual goals are, that it takes away from what the team goal is, which is hoisting the Lombardi. I mean, again, if the Dolphins are going to be good, then Tyreek Hill is going to be really productive, right? I mean, Tyreek Hill is probably going to be one of the top 5, if not top 3 players in targets, receptions, and yards if all goes well and he stays healthy. And he talked about it. I got to stay healthy and then da 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 da. But I don't know if the end of the sentence where it's like, so I can get 2,000 yards. Like that's where I kind of agree with you, Mike, where it's like, that's where it's maybe a little bit counterproductive. And everything else you say where you're motivated and you want to win and you want to be a part of it and you want to help get that, like, that's great. But let's try to strike that balance a little bit more of what it is that we want to do as a team versus what it is that you want to accomplish, even though, yeah, I get it that as a competitor, that's something you want to do.
And I think the big picture guidance and advice for Tyreek Hill as he continues to mature, he's not quite 30 years old yet. There's a difference between the goals that you talk about and the goals that you keep to yourself. Yeah. And the 2,000 yards, that's one that falls into the category of personal goals you just keep to yourself. The team goal is what you should be talking about and aspiring to achieve. But you're right. You don't want to take away the guy's passion. Hi, it's Mike Florio. Thanks for watching PFT on YouTube. Hit subscribe for the latest news and analysis from Pro Football Talk.